According to the latest reports of the IPCC and IPBES, environmental sustainability requires transformative changes in society. The IPBES Global Assessment recently found out that the extinction rate is growing for most animal groups, and that at least 680 vertebrate species had been driven to extinction since the 16th century. Regarding the conservation status, more than 40% of amphibian species, almost 33% of reef-forming corals, and more than a third of all marine mammals are threatened. Moreover, the average abundance of native species in most major land-based habitats has fallen by at least 20%. Some people in the audience will now remember the conclusions of the Millennium Ecosystem Assessment, which demonstrated that over the past 50 years, humans have changed ecosystems more rapidly and extensively than in any comparable period of time in human history, largely to meet rapidly growing demands for food, fresh water, timber, fiber, and fuel. In the last decades, a large community of scientists have put forward the concept of nature's contributions to people, to identify, assess, and value the multiple ways in which nature supports society's good quality of life. As you can see in this slide, most nature's contributions to people, especially those related to fundamental ecological processes, are in serious decline. The decline in these ecological processes is already playing a major role in human societies, as we can exemplify with climate change. Climate change is already having large impacts in physical systems such as on glaciers, rivers, and coastal areas. It is also impacting life systems such as forests through fires and oceans through acidification. Finally, it is also affecting human populations directly through impacts on food production or driving migrations. So, what are the underpinning causes of environmental degradation? The IPBES Global Assessment has reported that a combination of direct drivers such as land use change, direct exploitation, climate change, pollution, invasive alien species, and indirect drivers such as demographic and cultural changes, economy and technology, institutions and governance, and conflicts and epidemics, all these underpinned by social values, are the causes of environmental degradation. So, when we reflect on our way to achieve basic and fundamental targets for society, such as those stated by the Sustainable Development Goals, we may ask, how can science contribute to bring us closer to these goals? So let me share with you an example of my own interdisciplinary research focusing on the distribution of the global funds to reduce emissions from deforestation and forest degradation, REDD+. Deforestation causes 12% of the world's carbon emissions, which are addressed by the SDG 13, and is a major cause of not only climate change, but also biodiversity loss, addressed by SDG 15. So, what is the most effective distribution of global funds to tackle deforestation in developing countries? To answer that question, we introduce the concept of equity, and thus linking to SDG 10, to evaluate how a more equitable distribution of funds would affect the effectiveness of REDD+. What we found out is that the inclusion of equity considerations in the distribution of REDD+ funds creates considerable trade-offs for carbon sequestration and biodiversity conservation if equity has a strong weight. However, for softer considerations of equity, trade-offs are minimized, and funds may be distributed to a larger number of countries, and thus having a more inclusive approach, as it's the spirit of the UNFCCC, and helping to reduce the REDD+ implementation gap. This is one of the first studies to propose a transparent modeling approach on how to distribute REDD+ funds that considers social and environmental targets, and that may inform bilateral and multilateral negotiation processes. Finally, as this and previous research has shown, challenges related to climate change, nature deterioration, and achieving a good quality of life for all are interconnected. Therefore, we need to address them in a synergistic way and in the context of regional differences to make substantial contributions towards the Sustainable Development Goals.